So tonight we're gonna be talking. Am I like super loud? Okay. So is that better? Like if I hold it there? I do feel it. Tonight we're talking 412 talks forgiveness. So I've known Carla for a lot of years now, and I started out knowing her mother. Her mother taught me Spanish. I mean, not that I know Spanish, but I mean, I did Spanish with her for like 10 years or something. Yeah. So I literally would meet with her mom like 8 hours a day and talk in Spanish. So I got to know this lady like pretty well, and I love her mom. So I heard a lot about Carla just from her mom and just from, talking for 8 hours a day. What do you talk about, right? You're beautiful kids. So this family is very near and dear to my heart. So we're talking about forgiveness. So I kind of wanted Carla just to start out a little bit with why you're the one talking about forgiveness tonight.
So just
so I guess start out with I'm like, should I not say it on the microphone? Okay, so basically, your family and you have been on this journey for the past couple years. I think it started in about 2009, which seems crazy. Okay, so talk.
Yes. Yes.
So kind of take us back to the very beginning, where you're originally from and how you got here.
Okay.
In the United States.
So I'm from El Salvador. It's a little small country in Central America. It is not part of Mexico. It's its own country. My dad was the first one who moved here due to a situation that we'll talk about. He moved, I think it was 2001 or 2000? Was it 2001? 2001. August 2001.
August what?
I was little, don't
Yeah.
really remember. So he was the one who moved here first. And then throughout the years, my mom, brother, and I would come and visit him, during the winter time. We would come and visit him, and then towards towards the end of 2005, our visas were gonna expire. So we decided to make the move to United States. There wasn't a lot left for us in El Salvador. Sadly, it's a very poor country. There's not a lot of opportunities for people there. So then we made the decision to move here. I was 9 years old, and that was at the end of 2005. So then all of this, so then 2006, we moved, and just getting used to the country, just getting used to the culture. And fortunately for me, it was easy. I was very young. So I picked up everything really fast. And then, we were good. Things were awesome. And then in 2009, my dad got stopped by the police. And so we overstayed our visit, which I don't want to get into a lot of the immigration process because It's a lot and it's very confusing. So we overstayed our visits. So that meant that we didn't have any documentation for us to be here. But at that time, when my dad came, it was easier for him to get his license. It was easier back then. So he still had his license when he got stopped. He was on his way to work with his coworker, and they got stopped, and he was sent to jail. And from there, he was there, I think, 2 days. 2 days? Sorry. It's a lot to remember. He was there for 2 days. And I remember when my mom came from work, she was still working at the church. She actually came over with Mario, and she was like, yeah, your dad got stopped. And I was like, you're joking. I was like, it's an awful joke, but you're joking. And she was like, no, this is serious. He got stopped. And it's a fear that we've always had. I've always been aware of our situation. It's never been a secret to me. So it's always know it can happen, but you don't think that it's gonna happen to you.
So how did it feel for you when you realized it wasn't a joke and that your dad was in jail?
I started crying. I just remember that I just started crying so much. And I think it was a Wednesday, so then we just went to church that day, and then like some people knew about it, and then like they were coming up to me asking me how I felt, and I was like, I feel awful.
How old were you at the time?
2000
9 years ago.
I'm not good at math. I can't think straight right now. I was about 9, no. I was about 11, something like that.
Middle school.
Yeah. And then he got stopped, and then he was let out after those 2 days. And then that was when the whole process began. And that was when I started getting mad at, the whole system, like the immigration system and everyone that's involved in that. And I was mad at his coworker because
So the reason that he got sent to jail was his coworker.
his coworker didn't have any documentation. My dad had his license, so he would have been fine. Or at least I like to think that he would have been fine. But so then I was just mad. And then I remember just like saying like bad things about his coworker. And my dad, he's a very peaceful person. He's never gonna say like anything bad about people. And he was like, no, Carla, he was like, you're not gonna act out this way. This happened, and we're just gonna keep moving forward. And so then the whole process began, where he kept going to court dates after court dates. It was like maybe like 3 court dates per year. And we were trying to solve the situation, We were seeing if we could, get him some documents or something. But they just kept saying, there's nothing we can do, come back in about 5 months, 6 months. And it was just like that every year. And then maybe like 2 years before like everything happened, it started getting worse.
Now, how did you feel every time he had a court date, knowing like, wow, in like 2 days, or wow, in a week, or today my dad has a court date? How did that make you feel?
At first, it was scary because I was like, I don't know what could happen. And you just pray that the people that he's going to talk to, like, that they have a good heart and that they understand the situation. And then, as it kept going, I didn't really think about it because we were just so used to it.
Because it was years and years
Yeah.
of him going to this court date and just them
And,
prolonging it, basically, right?
Yeah, we were just like so used to it, like it kept happening, and I was like, okay, like I feel like this is a normal thing, which is very sad to think about.
Yeah.
And then it was like, I don't really remember the year, but I remember they put an ankle bracelet on him, and I was like my dad's not a criminal,
Right.
Because like you see that, and like they put that for people who are on house arrest. Mm-hmm. And I was like, my dad did nothing wrong. And like I would just see that, and sometimes like they would call him, like check up on him, like, hey, where are you? And it was just awful, like seeing your dad in that position.
Yeah.
Because like he's the provider of our family, and like, he's my dad, like your dad's like your number one hero. Mm-hmm. And then it just broke my heart. But, he just kept up like a positive attitude, and he didn't really talk about how he felt, but I could like see it that he didn't feel like a strong man, because that's not a good thing. And then we started getting visits from like people from the immigration system, just checking up on him. Like they would come like maybe like once a month, I think, just to like check up on him, like where are you at? And that was hard because like your family.
Yep.
And like okay, just trying not to cry. And you just like your family, and like I think everything about my family. And like, just like seeing us go through that was so hard. And it's like why are we being treated like this? And that's where the anger built in.
Now, at that moment when like the immigration's coming to the house, he has his basically a tether on. Did it kind of draw you guys together as a family where you started connecting more and leaning on each other more, or what, as a family did you guys go through in those couple years?
In a way it did, but then there were so many emotions going on. Like, we were angry and we didn't really know where to put that anger towards too. So like we would just get like in arguments, and then for most of the time we didn't really think about it. Like, after we were like, okay, this is the situation.
Yeah.
Let's not hold on to it, and let's just move on.
Now, after it had been getting put off and getting put off and getting put off, did the thought stay in your mind like that maybe one day like my dad will be deported? Or did it kind of just like after it had been prolonged for so long, just kind of, this is just like the life, we just live 6 months to 6 months, whenever the next court date is?
Yeah, like in a way I would be like, okay, it's been so many years, like nothing's gonna happen. And then the person who he got stopped with actually did get deported, like a few years after it happened. And then when that happened, I was like, what does that mean for my dad?
Yeah.
And in a way I was like, it could mean that he's gonna get deported. I was like, it could mean that it happened. And then once I graduated high school, I was like, okay, well, I graduated high school, like, this is it. Like, for some reason, I thought that, like, after me graduating high school, like, he got to see my brother graduate high school, and then he got to see me graduate high school. I was like, okay, like, in a way, it's over, and he's gonna be here for everything else. And I'm sorry, what was the question?
Since we're all laughing, can you, okay. So now I do have a question. No, I'm losing my train of thought. Okay, so one of the reasons why, or can you go into the reasons why his court date kept getting prolonged with the documentation from El Salvador, just to give them a little look into the history of what happened in El Salvador to the reason why you guys came in the first place?
Yeah. So my dad worked at a university as an accountant in El Salvador. He had a very good job, but someone falsely accused him of a crime. So they wanted to put him in jail. And that's when my dad decided to come here. And so then with that, it was like, it just messes everything up. So like, he would go and try to get a passport, but because of what was happening in El Salvador and it wasn't resolved, he couldn't get it. And they were like, like, this is happening and you won't be able to get it until you have this situation resolved. And my dad was like, well, how am I going to resolve it? Like, I'm all the way over here, and if I go back, I never come back. So, yeah, so that made it hard.
So basically, it was kind of a blessing in disguise because of his situation in El Salvador being unresolved, they kept having to put off the court date and put off the court date here, which kind of gave you guys a little bit longer, if you will.
Yeah.
Now, through these years, I guess from 2009 till 2017, when it, the
2016.
2016, yeah. What was your relationship like with your dad?
Well, since we had already been separated when he was living here, and I would only see him for a few weeks a year, it was a good relationship. I think in a way it could have been better, but I think throughout the years, like, we made it work. Because, like, it was awkward at first, where it was like, okay, like, now I have both of my parents. Like, I have to listen to both, where before it was, like, just my mom playing both roles. So now I was like, okay, I have to listen to both. And in a way, like, I would get, like, mean with him, and I'll be like, okay, well, like, you brought us to this country, and, like, I don't see anything. I was like, I don't see how we're doing better. I was like, we were doing so much better in El Salvador. And, like, I can only imagine how much that hurt him. But, like, it was just awkward. And I was like, I don't know what to do with this. But then later on, it got like so much better because we're very alike. Like, I love my mom and I get so along with her, but we're not really alike. But with my dad, like, he's more quiet, he's more reserved, he's more thoughtful, and that's how I am.
Yeah.
So it was like we could just be together and like we wouldn't have to talk about anything. We could just like acknowledge each other's presence, and that felt good.
So as you got older,
Yeah,
your
it
relationship got
better.
a lot closer.
Yeah. And then I was like, okay, like, this is so much better. And like I could just talk with him like about anything or, whatever I was going through. And so yeah, as I got older, it got better.
Now, in October of 2016 was when he had the final court date, right?
Yes.
Did you know that he was having his final court date?
No,
Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, I did not know that he had a court date. But, so at the beginning of 2016, we went to Chicago to try to get his passport again. And it was just the two of us that we went. And in a way, I think it was like our last like trip together, and like in a way, I feel like it was God like telling me like, you're gonna be away from your dad for a really long time, so I'm giving you this time to spend with him, because it was a good trip. And so we went, and he couldn't get the passport, and because that was like what was keeping him here.
Yep.
They had told him before, they were like, okay, well, we're not sending you back because you don't have your passport. So, like, you won't be able to travel without it. And so then after that, I was like, okay, well, like, nothing can happen. And so for that court date, like, I kind of always knew, like, when he had court dates. And, like, after I would be like, okay, so, like, what happened? And my mom would be like, oh, like, nothing happened. So then in October 2016, I wasn't aware that he was going to have a court date. I did not know nothing about it. And I was working the front desk at the church. And I was working with Pastor Arturo I can't remember what we were doing. And then I was like, do you not have any more appointments for today? And he was like, yeah, your dad's coming. He had his court date today. And I was like, oh. And then I felt something in my stomach. And I was like, oh, he did? I was like, I did not know about it. And he was like, yeah, he's on his way over here so we can talk about it. And then I texted my mom and I was like, my dad had a court date today? And she was like, yeah. And by this time she already knew like what had happened. And I was like, well, how did it go? And she was like, I don't know. He still has not told me about it. And so then he showed up, and like he was trying to hide what had happened in his face, but I was like, there's something going on. And thankfully, I only had like an hour left of work. And while he was in his office with Arturo, he was buying his plane ticket to go back to El Salvador. Because they basically told him that there wasn't anything else that they could do. There wasn't any purpose for him to be in this country, and he was going back. They did not care that he didn't have his passport. They were like, we're sending you back. We're gonna do it. So then I remember just sitting there like at my desk, and I was like, what is happening? I was like, okay, what's going on?
Did you know he was buying the plane ticket at that? Okay.
No, I did not know. I did not know what had happened in that court date. Like at first I was like, wow, maybe he got some good news. I was like, maybe a miracle happened. They're gonna give him, documentation, and we're gonna be all right. Like, you just try to tell yourself these lies. And then when he came out, he was like, I was like, how did it go? And like, I was already crying. And he was like, they're sending me back. And it felt so surreal when he said that. And it's funny because like the first thing that I thought about was, he's not gonna be able to walk me down the aisle. Just give me a minute.
I have to give you a hug.
And like after I thought that, I was like, Carla, you're being so selfish right now. Like, this is bigger than your wedding. I was like, you don't even have a boyfriend. And so, but that was the first thing that I thought about. I was like, he's not gonna be able to walk me down the aisle. Cause like, that's all you think about, like, you know, when you're growing up. Cause I was like, okay, like, he saw me graduating and all of this. So I was like, he's definitely gonna be at my wedding. And so that was the first thing that I thought about. And so then we were walking to the car, and like that was like the longest walk I had felt. I was like, I just want to get inside the car and cry.
Yeah.
And so then we went to pick up my mom, and she already knew, and she was just crying. And then we went to get gas, and then we were just crying in the car. And it's so funny because in a way, like we go throughout like our everyday life, you know. Mm-hmm. You have your routine and you know you're used to it. But like after you get like hit with news like that, it's like you feel more alive in a way, and you see everything so different. And then I just remember looking at the people at the gas station, and I was so jealous. You know, I'm sure they were going through their own thing, but I was so jealous because they weren't feeling the pain that I was feeling. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, I wish I was them right now. And then we got home, and I just remember, like, I just went into my room, and I cried. And I cried so much, and then my mom came in, and she was like, how are you feeling? And I was like, I'm so scared. I was like, I don't know what to feel, because, like, we've known people that have been deported. And, like, you hear about it happening so much, but you don't think that it's ever going to happen to your family. Mm-hmm. And so when it does, you get mad. And then that's when the anger comes in.
So what, you said you were feeling sad, maybe anger came in, but, like, what were really the emotions that were going on in that moment when this became a reality?
There were just so many emotions. It's like I was feeling everything at once. But mostly I was very sad, and I was very afraid of what was going to happen. I couldn't control the situation, and that made me mad. And then my grandma was visiting that when it was happening, so then we told her. And then my brother got home from work, and we told him. And it was so hard, because it's like, how do I keep, like, go on about my everyday life? Like, the next day I had to go to work.
As if nothing happened.
Yeah, because I did not want anyone to know, because I felt ashamed of what we were going through. So I was like, I'm just going to keep this secret. No one's going to know. I'm going to act like everything is fine. And then, so it happened in October. And then they had given him like about 4 weeks before he had to leave. He left a week before Thanksgiving. So then those like 4 weeks, I don't really remember anything from them. I just remember we stayed up, my brother, and then my dad and me, we stayed up watching the World Series. That was like our last, like, you know, bonding moment. Mm-hmm. And we were cheering for the Cubs, and they won that year. And, you know, it was like a nice celebration to have with everything going on. And I remember, like, we were trying to, like, figure out things that we could do. And I was like, well, I want to go to a movie with you. And then we were looking, like, for movie dates and everything, and almost like all of the good ones that we wanted to see came out after he left. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my gosh, this sucks. And you kind of try to be normal, but you can't. And yeah, like I just remember like waking up, going to work, coming home, feeling depressed, and just hoping something would happen in those 4 weeks.
So up until the moment that he left, you had this hope of like,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
he'll get to
Like,
stay.
yeah, I convinced myself that something was going to happen. And then I remember after it happened, I got together with Billy and I talked about it with him and I just cried my eyes out in his office. And he was like, well, maybe not a miracle is going to happen in these 4 weeks, but something awesome is going to happen with this whole situation. And I remember being mad at him when he said that.
And also Ruben
Yes.
came over, right?
Yeah, he came over after my dad left.
Okay. So now how were you feeling like the night before? Like what did your family do knowing like the next day he's getting on this plane? Who took him to the airport? How did like that all roll out?
Yeah, so then the time came and I was like, dang, he is really leaving. I remember it was Thursday night, and I remember because I think he left around 3 a.m., and I just remember we stayed up. Some people from the Hispanic church came over, to say bye. They brought us food, and then, yeah, so then they came over, and then, like, the time just kept passing by, and it felt like it was going slowly, but it also felt like it was going fast. So then he was, like, getting his little bag out, and then, like, I just started crying, and I just hugged him. And, like, I remember saying, I was like, I'm just so proud to be your daughter. Because, he was feeling so low at that moment. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, no matter what's going to happen, I'm just so proud to be your daughter. And I was like, I just love you so much. I was like, remember that. And so then my brother drove him to a family friend's house to take him to the airport. Because, he didn't want us to see him that way. And so then I remember, and like after he left, my mom and I were just crying. And like you try to tell yourself lies to make yourself feel better. So we were like, in a year he's gonna be back. Something's gonna happen and he's gonna be back. We were like, he has to go, he has to get things fixed, but he's gonna be back in a year. And then a few hours after that, I went to class. And because I think I had to take a test or something. And I was like, holy crap, what am I doing here? And then I remember just like going to the bathroom and crying. And I was like, my dad's on a plane right now. I was like, I have no idea when I'm going to see him again. Mm-hmm. I was like, I have no idea what's going to happen over there. And yeah, you just don't know what to feel in that situation. Because you're like, okay, well, I'm still here. Like, I have to still move forward in life. But it's like, how do I do that?
Right. So, in those moments, we'll get to like everything that happened with your dad in El Salvador and everything afterward, but in the moment of knowing your dad finally left, what was going on like inside of you?
I was angry. I would try to make myself angry at him so I wouldn't miss him so much. Mm-hmm. And I would just like say bad things about him. And then I was just mad like with everyone like in the immigration that was involved with everything. And then I was just like mad with people. I was like, I would see someone happy and I'd be like, you suck. I was like, I'm not happy. You don't deserve to be happy.
Right.
And then I was very sad, which then I, later found out that it was depression. But it's funny because you don't think that you're ever going to be in a place like that where you're having like thoughts about ending your life. Because like I've always had such a strong relationship with God where I was like, how do people stop believing in when they're low? I was like, that just doesn't make any sense. And you know, like we had gone through stuff.
Yeah.
But we always made it through, and I never stopped believing. And then when it happened, I was so mad at God. I was like, why are you doing this to me? I was like, we're so involved in church. I was like, I go to church almost every Sunday. What is this? I was like, I'm involved. Why are you doing this to me? You know, and like you just like start basically screaming at God. And then I was just so mad at him.
So who all were you mad at? Who weren't you mad at?
Well, yeah, basically like everyone who was involved with his case, I was mad at. I was mad at the people that made the decision. I don't even know these people. So it was hard because I was like, I wish these people would just come and like have dinner with us one night and see like the kind of family that we are, you know, so they wouldn't do this to us. And yeah, but mostly I was mad at them and then at God.
Now, as you were going through the feelings of like sadness and anger and all that stuff, when did you realize like, man, what I'm going through is probably legit more than just sadness and anger, but really depression?
Yeah. It wasn't, so like the thing with depression is like when you hear about it, you think that it's only like having suicidal thoughts, that it's like cutting yourself and all of that. So I was like, okay, well, I haven't done any of those things. So there's no way that I'm depressed. But then I kept having thoughts where I was like, where like we would be driving and I would be like, what if like something happened? Like we just crashed and died. And I would feel peace when I thought about that. And yeah, I was just like, what if I just died? I was like, everything would be over. Like, I wouldn't have to worry anymore. And I felt a peace. And then, like, I kept having those thoughts. And then I was like, okay, but, like, I can't do anything. I was like, I can't kill myself because then my brother and my mom would also have to worry about that. Because, like, after my dad left, like, there were so many things that we had to change. You know, he was mostly the provider of our household. So then, like, now it was like, okay, well, like, money is tight, and this is happening, and then this is happening. So it was like more things just kept happening. And so then I was like, well, like, I forgot how valuable my life was.
Yeah.
And the only thing, like, stopping me to not do something crazy was because they would have something else to worry about. It wasn't like, no, like, you're supposed to be here. Like, you're supposed to be alive. So then I started catching myself, like, thinking those thoughts, and I was like, oh my gosh, who am I? And, like, I would look at myself in the mirror, and I'd be like, I do not recognize this girl. I was like, I don't know who's looking back at me. I was like, I just lost myself. I was like, I don't know who I am anymore. And once, like, I started catching myself doing that, I just started praying. Like, I would just get on my knees, and I would just pray. And I'd be like, this is not me, God. I was like, I know I'm mad at you right now, but this is not who I am.
Yeah.
And then,
So what made you try to work at getting yourself out of that stage in life?
yeah, so, like, you know, once my dad left, I was like, okay, this is really happening. This is what we're going through. I was like, it's gonna suck. And I was like, it's gonna be the hardest year ever, but we have to keep going forward. And then one night, Pastor Ruben came to speak to us, the three of us, and he was like, you guys are still alive, so you guys have to keep on fighting. And, like, those words have remained with me, like, till this day. And then I was like, okay, you know. And my mom was down, we were all down, and, you know, like, your mom is always your support system.
Right.
And so like seeing my mom like that was like so hurtful. And then I would get mad at God again, because my mom has gone through so much in her life. So then I was like, really? You're giving her something else to go through? Like, she's had enough, And it was like I had never seen my mom like that. And so, it was like we were both relying on each other, and then with my brother, and we were all just relying on each other, because in a way it was us three against the world, and we were just so close. We didn't want to do anything. We didn't want to go to like anybody's birthday party. It was just like, no, like we're just going to stay home. This is going to be us. But then I was like, no, like this is it. And so then we figured like everything out. And then I remember that December, some of my family from Virginia came to visit us. And it was nice having them here. Like it really helped a lot. And then they left. And then my grandma went back to El Salvador. And then that's when it really hits you, that it's just the three of us. What are we gonna do? Like we have to pay this and that. So then, I started like providing more. And at first I did not like it because it was my money. I had my savings. I was like, I don't want to do this. I was like, this is stupid. I was like, I did not ask for this to happen to us. But, now that I think about it, it's like, Carla, calm down. But, yeah, so then we were like, no, okay, like, we have to make these changes, and this is going to happen, and you just keep moving forward.
Now, how did you start the process of inner healing, and how did forgiveness play a role in that?
Well, it took a long time because, so once my dad got back to El Salvador, his case that was happening over there wasn't resolved yet. So then he was put in prison for 3 months, where we had no communication with him at all. Like, I did not know how my dad was doing.
And you didn't even know that he was put in prison,
I didn't
right?
know.
He got back and just went.
Yeah, because at first I thought he was put like kind of like a detention center. I wasn't aware that he was in prison. I only found out after he got out. My mom was the one who knew. So then he was there for 3 months. And in those 3 months, his brother, my uncle, passed away. So it was like one hit after another. And in a way, you just stop feeling things. You don't have any more emotions. And, we had a family in El Salvador being like, well, why are they, because we had to pay the lawyer that was helping my dad. They were like, well, why are they not sending more money? He was like, his kids work. They can be sending more money. And then I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, we're barely making it over here, Yeah. So then I got mad at them. And so my dad was there for 3 months. It was just so weird because I was like, I have no idea how my dad is doing. I was like, I don't know what's happening. And then when his dad died, I remember I was just like, oh my gosh, like when he finds out, I'm not going to be there for him.
Yeah.
And that was hard because like we've had like, it just sucks because I was like, I can't do anything about it. And so you just think about that. So then in February of 2017, he got out. They realized he didn't commit the crime. But they had to put him there because, they still had to solve the case, whatever. And so then he got out. I remember we were in the drive-thru of Taco Bell when my dad called us. And just hearing his voice, it was like you take someone's voice for granted.
Yep.
And so like it was awesome having him out, but then I was like, we can't celebrate. I can't hug him. So then it's like, okay, so now I also have to work out. I have to work this out. And so he got out, and we had a chance to talk with him. I still don't really know what happened when he was in prison. That's something that he's gonna share on his own. I just know that he did, well, like months before everything happened, before he had to leave, he got shingles. But, he was cured. And then when he was in prison, he got shingles. And he couldn't see a doctor. And, and just hearing that, you get mad again. It was like, okay, now more people to get mad at. And then, but then, like, he started talking more about it. And, like, in a way, I could see that he was a different person for the better. He was like, yeah, I painted the prison, I was like, okay, Joseph. And, it's a very Joseph-like story.
Yep.
And he was like, I talked with people, that were going through something similar to me. And then, so the healing process. So, yeah, so then I just, I was like, okay, he's good. He has a friend they've been friends with, like, since they were kids, who has a church down there. And he started going there. He started getting more involved. And then, trying to figure everything out, because in El Salvador things aren't great right now. So it's hard to find a job. He was still waiting for his name to be cleared so he could find a job. But, thankfully, he had people to rely on. Yep. Friends who gave him jobs, And then, obviously, we keep sending money to him. And then then I was like, okay, this is my life. Like, I had to keep reminding myself. Yeah. I was like, okay, this is happening. Because in a way, I would try to avoid it at first. Like, I would go to work and I'd be like, okay, this is all I care about. I'm at work, I'm not gonna think about anything. But then I was like, no, like, I have to think about what's happening. And I have to, like, realize that this is our life now. And then I was like, okay, we're going through this. This is happening. This happened to our family. But we're gonna get through it.
Yep.
So then I just started telling myself that. And then I started, talking with God more. And then I was like, I don't want to be this person who I'm becoming. My heart was not in a good place. I was like, I don't want to be like this. I was like, I meant to love people and be happy and have joy. And, I just started praying that to God. And it was hard because I would have dreams with my dad. They were, like, awful dreams that when I woke up, I would just feel like throwing up, and, like, everything that we had gone through, like, all of the feelings would come back again. And, like, I would just have, like, an anxiety attack when I would wake up in the morning from those dreams, because they were just so scary and they felt so real. And then, so that makes it hard to heal.
Yeah.
Because, like, I would just constantly keep having those dreams. And I was like, God, I can't keep having these dreams. I was like, these dreams are awful. Like, I would have to write them down after I woke up. And then I was reading them the other day, and I was like, oh my gosh. Like, how did I make it through this? But it's because of God. So then, things started getting better. He was getting more involved with the church over there. And, I could see that he was becoming a different person, that his relationship with God was getting stronger. And then I was like, if my dad, who was in prison, can do all of this, then, like, I can also, like, forgive people and have peace in my heart. And it's a process. It's not something that's going to happen overnight where I'm going to be like, I forgive everyone, I love everyone. it's not going to be like that. Like, there's like triggers sometimes where I just, like, you get mad, but you remind yourself that this is that you're not this person anymore. And, thankfully, like, I have a great family,
Yeah.
And my mom, who is so strong. Like, talking with her helped a lot. And, it, like, in a way, when everything was happening, I could not let go of my relationship with God. I just couldn't. I was like, I'm really mad at you right now, but I can't let you go. I was like, I can't imagine my life without you, God. So, like, you still hold on to that. And then as time goes by, it starts getting better. And then just, like, seeing the man that my dad is now.
Yeah.
He recently went to a mission trip. And it was just so awesome. Because, like, at first, he was like, I don't know if I'm going to go because of the money. And I was like, I don't care what I have to do, but you're going. So then we sent him the money, and he got to go. And, like, if you would have told me before that my dad was going on a mission trip, I was like, you're lying. That's not him. And, he's, like, working more with the kids now. Like, that's his ministry now. And it's just so awesome to see that. And then hopefully in October, he's going to go on another mission trip to Peru. And just, like, the way he speaks now, and, like, sometimes he tells me, like, how he prayed over someone. And I'm just like, dang, that's cool.
So God really did something in him through this whole process too.
Yeah. In a way, this was necessary. Obviously we didn't want it to happen this way.
Right.
But it needed to happen. Because now his relationship with God, it's so much stronger. And he has such an awesome testimony. It's become one of my favorite testimonies.
That's awesome.
And yeah, it's like, definitely a very Joseph story.
Now for you, who all do you feel like you had to forgive?
I had to forgive some family members. And then with the whole immigration process, the people involved, I had to forgive, which is not easy. Because after it happened to my dad that he was deported, other family, friends, their spouses were getting deported also. Mm-hmm. And it was like the people who were with us when it was happening, they were losing their wife, they were losing their husband, they were also getting deported. And I was like, what is happening? And when you find out about it, all of the feelings come back,
right?
Of how I felt, when my dad left. Because in a way, it's kind of like, death. Like, you're grieving someone's presence, but they're still alive. But for 3 months, I couldn't talk with my dad.
Mm-hmm. Now, you got to talk to him in February of 2017.
Yes.
What happened at camp?
Oh, yeah.
That year.
So then camp came along, and then, like I shared in my testimony that year, I was like, I don't know if I want to go. I was like, I'm pretty broken right now. Don't think I can speak life to others or, like, talk about God. But then I was like, no, like this is my thing, I gotta go to camp. And so then I remember I was just, like, praying about everything that happened. And then I remember one night at an altar call, Billy was, like, talking about forgiveness. And he was like, if you have to forgive someone, even if it's people that you don't even know, just forgive them and just, give it to God here at this altar. And then I was like, I feel like that's for me, and I just, like, let it all out there. And I just, I was like, just, like, I forgive them. I hope they never have to go through something that I went through. And yeah, you just start healing.
Do you think that was kind of like the turning point for the process of the forgiveness?
For sure, because, like, even after my dad got out, it was still hard. And not even really until the beginning of this year have I felt more like myself. Because we would have good days, we would be laughing, and then I was like, I'm not supposed to be happy. I was like, I don't deserve to have joy in my life. Because, you know, after my dad left, I was like, there was so much pain and there was so much sadness that I was like, this is all I'm ever going to know. Like, there's never going to be joy again in my life. Because I'm going to feel bad about having a good day when my dad is not even here to enjoy it with me. So not even until the beginning of this year have I, like, allowed myself to feel like joy, you know, and not feel bad about it. Because, like, you know, we're going to go through our things. Like it says in the Bible, we're going to go through tribulations, but that God is also going to be there. And he's going to bring joy after those tribulations. Because it's funny, because we think that that nothing bad is ever going to happen to us. I don't know where we got that idea from. But, you know, bad things are going to happen. But that's how we start building up our testimonies. Because, you know, like, this is something so sad that happened, but we've been able to make it into such a beautiful story that, you know, hopefully it can touch people. And that's why, like, I feel like good talking about it now, because if you would have asked me, like, last year, I would have been like, no, I don't want people finding this out, you know, because it's something huge, you know, that you don't want people to find out about. But then, you know, with the whole immigration thing, it's getting bad. And, you know, more people are going to go through it. And so, like, I want to speak out about it. Like, I want others to know that, like, I went through it, like, my family went through it, but we've made it through, you know, like, we're still here. So, like, I want people to know that, you know, and with this, like, new dreams have come alive. Like, I would want to start, like, a group with, like, kids who have parents who have been deported, you know, and help them out, and just for them to have someone to talk to, because that's what I wanted when I went through it. Because, you know, besides my family, there wasn't really anyone else that I could talk about it, because you just feel ashamed of it.
Now, you mentioned to me earlier in the week that forgiveness was kind of a big part of, like, getting out of the depression and dealing with, like, the anger and the sadness. What would you say about that, and what would you maybe say to someone who is going through a situation where they have unforgiveness in their heart?
I think what I would say is that it's a process. Just like I said, it's not gonna happen overnight. And I know when it was happening, and, like, I would still not feel like I had forgiven someone, I felt bad about myself, because I was like, okay, Carla, like, get over it. But, you know, it's a process. Like, be kind to yourself, realize the situation that you're going through, and, you know, just ask God to put love in your heart and to put forgiveness in your heart, because without him, like, it's not gonna happen.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's what I would say. I would just say, you know, it's a process. Don't put yourself down whenever you're feeling bad days, that you feel like you still haven't forgotten about someone. Because that's how I felt. Like, even when we got together and talked about it, you know, like, this week, like, I've had to, like, think back about how I felt, and it wasn't easy, because I had to relieve everything. And then when I told you, like, about my family in El Salvador that was asking for more money, like, I got mad when you asked me, you know, when I gave you my answer. And then I was like, whoa. I was like, I thought I was over that. But, you know, it's like little triggers like that.
Constant reminders, but you have to constantly remind yourself of what God has done, and just keep allowing him to fill your heart with love and joy, for sure.
Yeah. And, you know, just remember that life is beautiful. You know, like, bad things are gonna happen. But, you know, if you have God in your heart, then it's like, that's all where you should be giving your attention, you know, to God. And just giving all of your feelings to him. Because I know that has helped me a lot. Whenever I feel like I don't know what I should be feeling, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to give this over to you. You know, just have a kingdom-minded, you know,
Yep.
personality, and then, yeah. I still don't know what's going to happen. I still have no idea when I'm going to see my dad again. I still don't know when I'm going to hug him again. And that's hard.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I do get anxious about that. But then, like, I just pray to God, and I'm just like, okay, like, you know how I'm feeling. So, and I just ask for peace. Because, it's only going to be 2 years this November since he left. And just now, this year, I'm starting to feel like myself again.
Yeah.
But, just having no fear in your life, giving also that to God. Because, like, it's so easy to have fear with this, because it's like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how safe he is. But, you just trust God.
Yeah.
That he's going to keep him safe. Thankfully, something also that came out of this situation was that he got to see his parents again. He hadn't seen them in such a long time, but he got to see them again, and he's helping them out. And, there are blessings.
And you
In
can see the
disguise.
change in him too, in his heart, that God did.
Like, we still keep in touch. Like, he still asks me, like, how I'm doing in school, because that is, like, one thing, like he told me, he was like, you can't stop going to school. He was like, I know things are gonna get harder, and I know money's gonna be tight, but you can't stop. He was like, you have to keep going, which I have. Thankfully,
Yeah.
I've been able to, like, provide that for myself. And yeah, like, we made it. Like, it hasn't been easy, but, here we are. Here I am sharing my testimony about this.
2 years ago, would you have ever imagined?
No, like I said, I thought only, like, sadness was going to be in my life. I was like, this is my life now, But, like, the fact that I get to share this, it's, like, awesome. Because, like, I wrote a little note on my phone. Like, I just wrote a lot, like, when we were going through the process. And I was like, God, I don't know what you're going to do with this. I hope you make it into something beautiful that someday I might be able to share with people. I was like, it doesn't matter if it's 100 people, 50 people, or 30 people. I was like, I just know that you're going to put me in a place where I can share it.
Yeah.
So, like, I feel amazing right now.
Well, thank you so much, Carla.
Thank you.
It's an awesome testimony. And just to make things clear, it's really cool. I think that, so the whole reason, in case you guys just didn't get this, I just want to go over it. Her dad originally left because he was falsely accused. When he got sent back to El Salvador and he was sent in prison, they reopened the case and realized that he was falsely accused, and his name completely got cleared. So it's really cool, because had he stayed here, the case would have never got resolved, and his name still would have been, like, botched in El Salvador for this guy who stole money from a university. But it's really cool now that he's back there to know that, all that stuff that he was falsely accused about, he was falsely accused, which is really awesome.
Yeah, like, he got to, like when he has his court date in El Salvador, like, he saw the people who falsely accused him. And, like, after they cleared his name, they were like, we always knew you weren't the one that did it.
Yeah.
And I was like, dang,
So
you've got some nerves.
So I just wanted to say that. I think that's really cool. Well, thank you so much, Carla, for sharing your testimony. I know it's sometimes not easy, but I've gotten blessed twice by your testimony now, and I know that it's just going to continue on. And I hope this encourages you guys out here, because I know we all go through hard things, and I know a lot of you out here may think, I might not ever go through that exact situation. But we go through hard situations sometimes, and usually through those hard situations, we get a little crazy on the inside. But knowing that there is a bright light at the end of the tunnel, and if you stick with God through it all and allow him to work in you, and that's, to me, the most amazing thing about this is, as mad as you were at God, you're like, but God, I'm not going to leave you, and I'm going to allow you to work in me. And that's really what it's all about, is allowing his work in us through the hard situations and sticking it out and having an amazing support system.